Before the sun rose and before the city stirred, the scream came. It tore through the empty street like a blade, sharp and sudden, echoing off stone walls and shuttered windows. Alira dropped the dough she was kneading. Her heart slammed against her ribs as the sound faded into a low, broken growl, filled not with rage, but with pain. She knew that sound now. Slowly, she wiped her hands on her apron and stepped toward the bakery window. Outside, wrapped in the pale blue light of early dawn, the dragon lay where he always did, curled beside the stone wall, wings folded tight, blood darkening the cobblestones beneath him. He had come again, not to attack, not to burn, just to breathe. Ashkar's massive chest rose and fell with effort. Smoke leaked weakly from his nostrils as he inhaled deeply, dragging in the scent of fresh bread from the warm ovens behind Alira. His golden eye remained half open, watching the door with quiet patience, as if afraid that if he moved too much, even this small comfort would be taken from him. Alira pressed a hand to her mouth. Weeks ago, she would have screamed. She would have hidden. Dragons were monsters in every story she had ever been told. They destroyed cities. They stole children. They were the reason kingdoms fell and kings grew cruel. But this dragon did none of those things. This dragon was broken. Alira knew what broken looked like. Her father had looked like that the day soldiers dragged him away, accused of treason he never committed. Her mother had looked like that as winter took her lungs and hunger hollowed her face. Alira herself had felt broken every morning she woke alone, baking bread for people who barely remembered her name. She opened the bakery door. The hinges creaked softly, and Ashkar flinched, muscles tensing despite his injuries. Old iron chains etched with glowing runes were wrapped around his neck and shoulders, biting into scale and flesh alike. Some were snapped, others still pulsed faintly with dark magic. "I won't hurt you," Alira whispered, voice shaking. Ashkar's eye focused on her. It was ancient and weary, filled with shame rather than fire. "I know," he said quietly. His voice was deep, but cracked like stone split by frost. "If you wished me harm, I would already be dead?" Alira swallowed hard. She stepped back inside and returned with a loaf of bread, still steaming. She set it down gently a few feet away and retreated. Ashkar stared at it as if it were sacred. When he finally reached out, his claw trembled. He tore off a small piece and ate slowly, eyes closing as if savoring more than taste. Alira realized then that it was not hunger driving him here. It was memory, warmth, life. From that morning on, Ashkar came every day. Always before sunrise. Always silent. Always wounded. The townspeople noticed. Fear spread faster than truth. Doors stayed shut longer. Children were kept inside. Men gathered in hushed groups, whispering about fire and death and old wars. Soldiers came soon after. They watched from the edges of the street, hands resting on sword hilts, eyes gleaming with anticipation. A notice was nailed to the bakery wall one morning, stamped with the king's seal. Bounty for the cursed dragon. Alive or dead. Alira tore it down with shaking hands and fed it to the oven. She learned Ashkar's story in fragments, whispered between breaths and bites of bread. He had once been a guardian of the skies, bound by ancient oath to protect the innocent. When the king ordered him to burn a border village as a show of power, Ashkar refused. For that he was cursed. The spell shattered his wings, chained his strength, and marked him for death. His own kind abandoned him. Humans hunted him. Every wound refused to heal, the curse feeding on his pain. "I come here because it reminds me of what I once protected," Ashkar told her one morning. "A place where people begin their day with warmth." Alira felt something tighten in her chest. She began cleaning his wounds at night, hiding him behind the bakery when patrols passed. Her hands burned when she touched the cursed chains, but she endured it. Ashkar never complained, never asked for more than bread and silence. The bond grew quietly. Then the betrayal came. It was still dark when the soldiers returned, this time in force. Torches lit the street. Spellcasters chanted. Steel nets crackled with magic, designed to drain dragonfire. Ashkar rose, pain ripping through him as arrows struck his wings. He positioned himself in front of the bakery, shielding it with his body. "Elira," he growled softly, "run." She stepped forward instead. Her legs shook, but her voice did not. She screamed the truth of Ashkar, of the king's lies, of her father's unjust death. The soldiers laughed. Chains slammed around Ashkar's limbs, dragging him to the ground. The curse flared, draining the last of his strength. His fire died in his throat. Elira ran to him as blades pressed close. Ashkar's eye met hers. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I wanted to protect you." "No," she cried, tearing at the glowing runes even as they burned her skin. "You will not die here." The curse fed on despair. It had chosen the wrong girl. Elira poured everything she was into that moment, every loss, every lonely dawn, every loaf baked in silence. She screamed until her voice broke, until blood ran from her palms. The chains shattered. Light exploded across the square. Magic screamed and collapsed. Soldiers fled in terror. Ashkar rose whole, his wings unfurled, vast and radiant. Fire returned to his breath, not wild, but pure. He knelt before Elira, lowering his massive head until it touched the stone. "You freed me," he said. Tears streamed down her face as she laughed. "So did you." At dawn, Ashkar flew. The bakery lay in ruins. The town stood silent. Elira rebuilt with her own hands. Every morning, bread still rose. And sometimes, far above, a shadow passed through the clouds, carrying the scent of hope with it.